Well, if we're using the transitive property, then the Cavaliers are actually the NBA Cup champions. They took down the Bucks tonight, 124-101. By the end of this conversation, we'll see if Spence calls it a signature win. But guys, excited to be back with you. Spencer German, Spencer Davies, obviously Spence on site at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. And there's a number of big storylines from this one. Obviously, the Bucks being a team that's playing really, really good basketball right now, coming off that NBA Cup title or win, whatever you want to call it. But I think from the Cavs angle, Spence, the biggest storyline coming into this game, and as we saw throughout, was Max Strus making his 2024-25 debut a little earlier than I think we both kind of anticipated. We thought it might be not till January that he played, but here he was out there on the floor, and it was a good sight and helped fuel the Cavs getting the win tonight and continuing the great start to the season that they've obviously had to this point.
Came off the bench, had a minute restriction, somewhere around 19, 20 minutes, and that's about right for somebody who's coming back from an ankle injury. I thought the most intriguing part of all of his return was him searching out physicality. He wanted to hit people. He wanted to get hit. He wanted to test out everything, kind of retrust his body a little. And it's clear that he had a mission in mind to try and just show himself and show his body that he was ready to kind of absorb those contacts, those hits and all that stuff. And I thought he did a good job, maybe a little too overzealous at times. Donovan even said that he yelled at him a little bit, but he understands as well, because when you're coming back from injury, it's not easy to reacclimate yourself to game speed, but also to that physicality. So that's the part that stood out to me a little bit more than the other stuff. He did get up 8 threes. I think the first 4 he missed that he tried, but he went 3 of 8, one of which was on a beautiful kind of sell by Evan Mobley and him on the left side of the floor. They followed Evan. Max was open at the top, and he knocked one down. And then he had, a couple more in the third quarter. So it's good to see him get his legs under him. He looked fast. He looked a little bit just energized out there. His first action in a long time. It's his first, it's a season debut, for goodness sake. So, but just another weapon for the Cavs to add to this thing. And as the theme has indicated, a lot of different angles that this team can hurt you, a lot of different guys who can dribble, pass, and shoot. And it's just another example of how deep and how dangerous this team can be when everyone's healthy.
Yeah, I mean, and Max obviously adds to that. We've talked a little bit, Spence, you and I, about we don't necessarily think the Cavs are going to be like these big trade deadline buyers trying to make some big splash move, but this is kind of like a pre-deadline move for them. Like they're adding somebody into their starting lineup that wasn't here at the start of the season. And by the way, even without him, they got off to the tremendous start to the season that they've had. So. Like it was good to see him out there. I think, the seeking out physicality thing doesn't surprise me for somebody like Max Strus. And even though not his best shooting night, and he was 3 of 8, as you said, from 3, I like the idea of him coming out and being willing to take those shots and just kind of shooting through it, right? Because it's going to take you time to get your rhythm back. It's going to take you time to kind of get a feel for things again when you've been off the floor for so long and then dealing with the injury. So just to see him come out and be aggressive and assert himself that way, like on a night like tonight, it's like, yeah, you know what? I'll take you being 3 of 8, because I know that when you get into a tight game against the Celtics later in the season, you'll have worked out all the kinks and you'll knock down most of those shots. So yeah, I'm okay with that.
And as you'll see on this YouTube page, Cavaliers on SI, make sure to subscribe, make sure to comment, make sure to like all those videos. Max did talk about that, and he even joked. He said, "I wish I would have took 12." So he's out there getting the looks he wants, and then offensively, you saw a little bit of the creation, not too much of it with him and Evan Mobley, but that 2-man game that they spoke of so highly last year that we only saw in bits and pieces with this Kenny Atkinson offense and the way that these schemes are these days. It's so tailor-made for what Max does. It's the cutting, but it's also just the constant movement in the half court, making guys chase you around when you're snaking through those, areas in the floor and trying to find openings and crevices. And as we know, Max made so well last year as a pocket passer, as someone who passed the second side, who also could swing the ball on the perimeter. We saw a lot of swing passes tonight, just around the horn and into the corner that looked really nice and had some really good, results. And part of that was Dean Wade on the receiving end of those.
Yeah. And I was already encouraged to see sort of what the rotations were going to look like, what the ball movement was going to look like with Max back in there. Oh
I'll
man,
move.
Spence.
Hey, Spence after dark. Let's see if I can go down backwards.
Spence
Hey,
after dark.
this is a test. This is
Literally.
a test. I can
Literally
hear you.
Spence after dark.
I can hear you.
But no, yeah, I was encouraged by seeing some of the ball movement, how the offense kind of kept its rhythm, kept its flow with
Yes.
Strus out there, how he kind of factored into things. So yeah, that was all good. It was I would say overall pretty solid debut for Strus, and him getting his feet kind of back underneath him, which is going to continue to take some time. On the flip side, Spence, like we know Dame Lillard obviously didn't play in this game. We know Giannis did, and he had a tremendous performance with 33 points, really leading the way for the Bucks. And I think at this point, Spence, like there's a case to be made. Giannis is back to playing at like that number one player in the league type level. Like he's looked really, really good. He's attacking the basket. He's doing some nice things. But I know there were some unique ways that the Cavaliers tried to kind of limit him, understanding he was still going to get his shots up. But what did you kind of notice just about the way the Cavs played against him, defended him, and their ability to at least limit the damage that you were going to get from obviously a player of tremendous caliber in this league?
Well, it's funny how you can look at limiting damage and see 33 and 14 on the board,
Yeah.
and that's an off night for Giannis, and that it really wasn't though. It was Giannis. Sounds hot takey, but it was 1-on-5 this evening. The way that Damian Lillard being out hurts them on their creation ability, and obviously the two-man game that Dame and Giannis have established together. But they just had no one to get Giannis into actions. They had no one to get Giannis on the roll. So a lot of the creation was on Giannis himself, and a lot of that came on the block. The Cavs did a really good job, I thought, of standing him up. Dean Wade was a big part of that, and we're going to just get into Dean's game, as you can tell how much I'm talking about him. But it wasn't just Dean. I thought that Karras did a good job. I thought George stepped up a lot on Giannis, but they got him. He gets onto the block and he tries to use his right shoulder to get baseline and then draw the foul, finish left, whatever. In the half court, if you can slow him down, you can do a decent job on him. But they had him a little bit of flustered early on, and he missed some layups and stuff like that. But then he started to get going, knocked down a couple of jumpers, even knocked down a three. He doesn't take in many of those all year, really. But he was feeling himself in that third quarter. But they did a good job on Giannis overall, and I thought when they doubled, they were trying to have anyone else beat him when he started to get it going. And, the Bucks, they only hit 10 threes, but they only took 27 of them. The Cavs did a really good job of getting the shot profile they wanted from Milwaukee tonight. And a lot of that is, hey, Giannis, you can go beat us yourselves, but if anybody else isn't making shots, then it's going to be a really tough night. And I thought the Cavs did a really good job defensively on their principles, on their switching, and then also the gang rebounding too was big from the guards.
I think along those lines, like we talked on the podcast, Spence, about just the layoff and the kind of the weird, quirky schedule around the in-season tournament that's been going on, and part of that was the Cavaliers not really playing a lot of games, obviously, and how we think that needs to kind of be revisited. But I was encouraged by the fact that the intensity that we've seen throughout the season, their ability to kind of keep that up at a high level, despite sort of the longer layoff or the weird sort of break in between games like that. It was an abnormal sort of schedule situation for them, but they didn't miss a beat. And you're coming out against, again, a team that's certainly on the rise in the Eastern Conference, is back to playing at a very high level. And so I thought to see that energy and that, like, they didn't really miss a beat was also very encouraging from this group tonight.
It translated from Monday. Monday, you're playing a Nets team that just lost Dennis Schroeder. They didn't really know how to kind of execute offensively, defensively. They were just kind of all over the place. The Cavs had their number, but it was defense to offense the whole time. Same case tonight here against Milwaukee. Just the way that these guys are getting steals. Like Donovan had 2 thefts early that looked really good. Jared Allen's getting his hands on the ball. Dean Wade, another guy who he's either playing passing lanes, but also just standing guys up and forcing bad passes. But these are just leading to transition opportunities and early offense, which the Cavs excel at right now. And if you turn the ball over against them at all, it's going to be a long night for you. And, that I think is a kind of key to success for the Cavs. I mean, they're playing fast and they're playing furious, and there's really not one guy taking all the shots, and other teams can't make them play their style. Then the Cavs, they've been doing it all year, man. Like it's hard to come up with anything else, but the ball's popping, the field goal attempts, they're scattered about. It's not too much, of one person taking shots. It's all distributed well, and that's what the Cavs do right now. And I don't know if I've been inching towards it, but I want to talk about Dean. So
well, tee me up. I literally was about to say, I know if I don't let you talk about Dean Wade, then you're going to be tossing and turning all night in bed, not being able to sleep. So just talk about Dean Wade. What do you have to say?
It's good to see him get a good shot output tonight. Just have, going 4 or 5. He hit his first 4 threes tonight. He was available on the outside, but even so, when he was available on the outside, you still see he only took 6 overall shots, but he was attacking closeouts and playmaking for other guys. He had my favorite play of the night was when he pump faked the guy, drove left, and then got to the middle and kicked it out to Max Strus for a 3. That is an example of what it means when you have an outside threat, guys start closing out, and then you're able to attack and then make a read from there. I thought Dean was tremendous at that tonight. I thought he was good on the glass. I thought that, I'll go back to it, the way that he stood Giannis up. Not a lot of guys can do that. And, you got a 6'9" guy out there who's got plenty of size and he can cover a lot of ground, but also just has the weight, the size to hold up to someone like that and to be able to stay in front is quite admirable. So, Dean deserves a lot of credit tonight. That's the reason I wanted to talk about him, because he did a lot for this team. And obviously the way that they started, he did a lot for this team too. And he's always been the defensive guy and kind of that wing defender that they've always, needed for those bigger guys. And he stepped into the starting lineup tonight and did a good job.
So, Spence, before we get out of here, we have to ask the important questions here. Okay, signature win for the Cavs tonight. Listen, that team's hot. They just won the NBA Cup. Big Eastern Conference clash. What are we saying about this one?
Do you want to know my honest opinion? It's definitely not signature win, but I'll give you an honest opinion. So this is where I think
one day
podcast topic really, but this is where the NBA Cup needs to logistically be a little better. So the Bucks are coming straight from Vegas. They get 2 days in between, and then they come to Cleveland. Cleveland, on the other hand, ends up having to have 4 days off. It's a little bit of difference in scheduling and kind of what kind of rest and practice they've had. And not to mention, too, with Milwaukee, they're missing Damian Lillard. I know a lot of this stuff, says schedule loss, but I'm not going to say that because the Cavs have just been doing this regardless of the time, regardless of who they've played. But it really is something that I think the league has to figure out logistically.
This one doesn't count because the Las Vegas flu was still running through the Bucks.
Explanation, not an excuse. How about that? But no, I mean, not having Damian Lillard out there and having Giannis have to create for himself, I think that was a big part of it.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Well, Cavaliers get another win tonight, 124 to 101, as they continue their great start to the season, obviously. And no rest for the weary. They're back at it tomorrow at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. They host the 76ers. And then Monday to sort of close out that Monday is their last home game of 2024. So they close out 2024. I believe it is. Am I right about that? I think so, right?
What's that?
Monday. Sorry, you gave me a look like I made that up. So I just wanted to make sure.
No. I was looking in the back because there was
you're good.
Somebody
you're good.
dragging the trash along, and I was trying to make sure that it wasn't on the screen. So we
I was like, did I just mess this up?
I haven't had the sprinkler moment that you've had, but hey, I got the lights shut out on me, and then I had some people coming over around there doing the cleanup work here.
It's okay. You're closing down Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse.
But no, you're right about that though. That's the last game of 2024 Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, because after this 3-4, now you have tomorrow against the Sixers, and then Monday against the Jazz. And then after that, and after Christmas, you start on the West Coast and you ring in the new year on the West Coast. Next game at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse will be on January 5th, I want to say, against the Hornets. So, yeah, it'll be a little while before they're back here after Monday. But a couple of games still left here in Cleveland, and I'll be at both of them. So you can depend on that. You can depend on Spencer Squared and their haircuts. Clearly, that I'm noticing here too.
Right. I did get a haircut last week. Thank you for
Spence
noticing.
haircuts. Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you for
no.
noticing.
Got
couple of Spences cutting it up, literally. Yeah, I should be there Monday, so I hope the Cavs Frog is there Monday. I will not be there tomorrow because I have to drive to Cincinnati, but that's another story, for another team, for another whole thing. In the meantime, guys, we encourage you as always to follow along with all things Cleveland Cavaliers at the Cleveland Cavaliers on SI YouTube channel. You can find more content like this, and of course, the podcast Courtside with the Cavaliers on SI. One day I'll get it perfectly right without stumbling. You can also find all the post-game press conferences and all that Spence always uploads afterwards, what guys had to say afterwards tonight.
Check them out today, by the way.
Yep,
because
some
Max
good stuff.
Talked, Don talked, and then you had Max, Don, and Evan. Evan talked today, along with Kenny Atkinson. And by the way, check out Kenny Atkinson's pregame press conference. A lot of people talking about NBA, current NBA, and ratings and the state of the league right now. That's the hot topic. Kenny talked about a lot of that in the pregame, so make sure to check that out.
I want to go back and check it out now because I actually want to hear what he had to say. I missed that earlier. So
you'll see. I'll tweet it out later.
I will find that content over at the Cleveland Cavaliers and SI YouTube channel. And, of course, be sure to read any of our written content over at si.com/NBA/Cavaliers. Appreciate you guys, as always, stopping by. For Spencer Davies, I'm Spencer German, and we'll be back with more coverage of your Cleveland Cavaliers.